Hello and welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the video game news and stories for your listening and viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. I'm back from the dead this week, which is kind
of... Oh yeah, you weren't here last week.
Which is quite fitting, considering it's Halloween week. Chris, favourite Halloween memory?
Memory?
Yeah. This was not planned.
I mean, it's not a favourite memory. I remember going trick-or-treating as a child, and we went out of town to my auntie's house. Yeah. And it just shows you how it's a memory, because you put me on the spot with that. Didn't preempt me or prepare anything for this part. Happy Halloween, everyone. But we went trick-or-treating, and unbeknownst to myself, if you go to York in the UK, I was given, knock on one door, and I was given an orange instead of sweets. Or candy for our American friends. And it was like, I've been trick-or-treating most of my childhood life, and I've never once been offered fruit on All Hallows Eve, but...
I think I've genuinely received toothpaste before, as a kid.
Wow. It must have been a dentist's house that you went to.
I think there's just some people go, you give it because you're all having all these sweets or candy if you're in the Americas. But it's like, he will give you some toothpaste to counteract it. And it's like, well, they ain't going to counteract diabetes.
No, certainly not. You need much stronger things than that.
I'd rather nothing than...
Yeah. So, to compound what made it worse and why it probably sticks in my head, the next house we went to, trick or treat, they said trick. Like, the person who opened the door actually said trick to us, and all three of us, brother, sister,
panicked.
Cousin, dumbfounded as, 11-year-olds or something, looking at them going like... I don't have any tricks. Like, no one ever says trick. They just hold out a bag of sweets or a bowl of sweets. And we kind of, I don't know, I think I pretended to steal my brother's nose really quickly in a panic moment. And we're like, scary. And then, but you know, and just this isn't how Halloween's supposed to go. Like, I'm sure it doesn't account for the whole of York City. It's just a tiny suburb on the outskirts. But
I'm aware as a child, you with two options, but we both know there's only one option.
Yeah. But shout out to the lady who used to make treacle tarts instead for Halloween.
Oh, she was great.
Yeah, shout out to her.
I forgot.
But yeah, how about yours? What's your I guess, scariest Halloween moment?
Scariest Halloween moment? Oh,
scariest?
I have no idea, because as an adult, I've not exactly been the biggest lover of Halloween, typically. And as a child...
Boo!
Boo indeed. Boo indeed. From the Mario games. The ghost.
Yeah.
Boo. I don't know. Scariest.
So you asked me that question, and now I'll put it back on you, and you're like, I've got nothing.
The thing is, because I knew I chucked that, I knew it was going to come back, and I knew I should have been thinking about something, but I wasn't. I was too much thinking about treacle tarts.
What about your favourite scary gaming moment, then?
It was probably actually quite appropriate to this week's stream, which I think I told the story on the stream. I got the original DeadSpace in the Humble Bundle many years ago. I had no idea what sort of game it was. I thought it was going to be like a horror-themed action game, and then when I jumped into it, it's like, the real tension of this game is like, no, I'm not enjoying this at all. This is not what I expected it to be. Yeah.
So you thought Dead Space was about a faulty spacebar on a keyboard?
Yeah, the spacebar was dead. But we have a great show lined up for you for this week, where we're talking about, is Alan Wake another Game of the Year contender? Skull and Bones continues to sink. And all the best horror games available right now on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus? That PlayStation Plus is when you get, it's a PlayStation, but it's soft and you can sleep with it.
It's on Amazon right now.
There probably is one. I mean, Xbox probably will make one. You know what they're like.
You can get everything in plushie form. I'm sure there's a gold PlayStation, the actual Plus logo in a pillow plushie format. Yeah. But if not, I'm sure Xbox will certainly make their own version of it.
Let us know in the comments below what you think, what PlayStation console you would have in plush form. But before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all of our great content here at GamerGuildTV, such as the aforementioned Dead Space stream, where, Chris, did you manage to open doors?
Of course I managed to open doors. My problem is I step back from them and they close automatically. Yes, we played Dead Space, just went on to Game Pass, very, very timely, as we said on last week's show, for Halloween. free, I guess, free quote in quotes for Game Pass. And we jumped into it for our spooky stream this past Thursday. We'd implore you all to join us every Thursday or Friday for our weekly streams because we do have a lot of fun. But yeah, I thought it's quite tradition on the channel. We play a spooky game around Halloween. We've done it in the past. We've played Little Nightmares. We've played Resident Evil multiple times. And we'd recommend this game highly after playing about 2 hours and 10 minutes, I would say. So the kind of opening chapter and a half. And boy, that game's scary.
Good though.
It does not hold back. Yeah, the atmosphere. Like again, this is the DeadSpace remake. We should stress. So this is the video game that came out earlier this year, back in I think it was February or March time. Yeah. Roaring reviews, fantastic. Basically, what a remake / reboot should be of an older video game, and it's in a couple of conversations for potentially Game of the Year. Well, it was initially. It might have been phased out a little bit because this is the best year for video games.
I think if it came out now, it very much would be higher up in people's thinking. But I think it's going to probably be a bit of recency bias with this year because there's been so much great contenders.
It does happen. But but in terms of the game, never played it before. I think I said on the stream as well, I'd watched a friend play it for maybe 10-15 minutes, and then we uninstalled it very, very quickly from our PS3s and just went about our day. But yeah, very surprised. I knew I kind of would have enjoyed it to some degree, but I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much because, as we said on the stream, like both of us, when it comes to horror video games, are cowards.
Yeah,
we do not want to play them on our own. I don't want to be sit there on my own in the dark, being scared, jump scared all the time. But playing it with friends, you, the wonderful community out there, you kind of get like a sick kick out of it, where the scares are like everyone laughs, everyone chuckles at Chris jumping at things, and it kind of gives you the energy to persevere through. But I will say, since finishing it, it's been on my mind quite a bit. So I feel like I want to keep going through it, especially because Halloween hasn't happened yet. It's obviously tomorrow after this show goes live, and I'm like, just get back and maybe do another 2 hours, maybe here or there. So it's potentially something in the pipeline. If people enjoyed the first look, if they want to see a little bit more, I don't see why not. We've not really got anything. Actually, after this week, Alan Wake 2, we'll talk about that in a short while.
Yeah.
There's not really much else on the horizon for the rest of the year.
Which I say that now because it's like November, basically.
Same. Like, let us wind down. Let us start digging in that back catalogue. But yeah, we'll get to Alan Wake now because like the remaster's also on my mind. It's like, but yeah, I'm guessing. So that's what I've been playing, Richie. Aside from other things, but you were missing from last week. So
I was, yeah.
Tell us about your initial thoughts on the amazing Spider-Man 2.
It's spectacular.
Is it wonderful?
No, that's Mario. No, it is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal game. It's exactly what I expected it to be, and that isn't a bad thing. The narrative is incredibly engaging. It's so fun. Again, just to swing around New York, or use your web glider thing. I think, yeah. Like I don't really have much anything specific to say about because I think every element of the game is amazing. I haven't come across anything where I go, oh, that could be better. At all. I think it's definitely a Game of the Year contender, and it's definitely a contender for my own personal Game of the Year. So, it's great.
I feel exactly the same. I've put some good time into it, just chipping away. I've been off work this last week, so I've got a couple more blocks of time to chip away, and I think I'm about maybe just over 2/3 into it now, if not getting to the 75-80% mark. Yeah. If anyone who has played or is playing and has got to it, I'll say there's a moment that happens in Times Square. That's what I'm up to. So that's the spoiler-free kind of element that I'm to. And I think I'm definitely ahead of you now, Richie.
Yeah, well, we were actually talking Thursday night. Wednesday night? It was Wednesday night.
Football night, whatever night football was.
Yeah, and we were basically at the same point then, and I haven't progressed the story since, so...
Oh, it gets good. It was
already good.
Kind of surprising. I know you've been at work this week, but of course you need to apologise to our audience because you took last week off purely to play Spider-Man. You disregarded our fan base, our listeners, our viewers, the wonderful people I'm here for every week. I just want to point out again, Rob's not here this week, so give him shit as well. Rob's gone to play Spider-Man as well. I'm the only one who can play Spider-Man and show up for a show every week.
Yeah, but
that's dedication
you took the week
to you.
Off to play Spider-Man, so.
Yeah, but I have a daughter, so she kind of gets in the way of all gaming things.
Yeah, you might have a daughter, but I've basically got a man-child to deal with.
We're all man children.
We are.
Man children?
Yeah, so last
kids?
week, the reason I wasn't here is because Chris is right, I was sat right here playing Spider-Man.
See,
But
he even admits it.
I did. I played Spider-Man when you were recording the show, but because my internet was down for an entire day. I woke up in the day, we were planning to record, I had no internet. I asked you and Rob to push back the time so I could try and figure out something, do a whole reset of the route, all that sort of stuff. Nothing worked. Initially, Virgin Media, who's my ISP, didn't even recognise there was a problem. Later on, they started recognising there was an intermittent signal issue. By intermittent signal issue, I meant I had zero internet for an entire day. So Virgin, yeah, be better, because that was just shit.
Be greater, as Spider-Man 2
Yeah.
would say.
So yeah, otherwise I will find another ISP because that was it was a joke, to be honest. Because I couldn't, it meant I just literally couldn't record. I could have hotspotted my phone, but I don't get a lot of data on my phone. I've got quite a small data plan, and I always get patchy signal in my house with my phone because I'm just on the edge of the town. So it's just so I would have been dropping in and out, and we've had streams and stuff like that before, and it's just I felt it was just better for you and Rob to have a clean podcast rather than me stressing out and trying to figure it out. So I just
we had a great time. But either way, they've gone and pulled the plug on Rob's internet now, so he's gone. But I'm sure we'll talk about Spider-Man. We might even do a spoiler cast or something at some point because I definitely want to talk about it more when it reaches the end. It'll probably actually come into it more with our Game of the Year conversation, as he said. But yeah, thoroughly enjoying it. I'm not really rushing through it. I'm just enjoying every moment I get. The side missions are fun. The random encounters around the city are fun. The web swinging, like I said, is just seamless. There's not an issue with it whatsoever. The fighting, the combat is as slick as ever, and yeah, the story's engaging. The voice acting's terrific. There's not enough superlatives to basically stress how good this game is, and it'll be an interesting one for Game of the Year because it also suffers from that. It is just more of the same in a lot of ways, which isn't bad, but for Game of the Year, I feel like you always want something a bit fresh and different.
But I think it is fresh and different enough because it's brought in Miles Morales. It's got the mechanic where you can switch between them. They have updated the moves and abilities. There is a new narrative, and it's very narratively driven. And the narrative, from what I've experienced so far, is incredibly strong. So I think, I think it should be. I think there will be some outlets who might be mark it down because it's a sequel. But I think it's more likely people might vote for something else based on the strength of other stuff. And talking about that, Chris, would you like to introduce us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka the news,
the spooky news?
Ooh.
Alan Wake 2, Chris. Could this be another Game of the Year contender?
It seems like it, Richie. Out of nowhere, Alan might have quite cracked it. Now, neither of us have played the original Alan Wake.
It
got a remaster
We've
last
took the
year.
piss out of the name.
I put a Twitter poll out earlier this week, kind of when the review started coming out for Alan Wake, and I thought to myself, what will actually hold this game back from being great? And in my own mind, I'm very particular about just naming conventions of video games, and I think Alan Wake is a terrible name for a game. Giving a naming convention as a title, it's just it doesn't quite work. It's like calling, I think, movies like Emily or something. What does that mean? It's just the person's name. It doesn't evoke any emotion or a genre defining title. And yeah, Alan Wake, I feel like for something that's so engrossed in horror and psychological kind of tropes, there's so many cooler words that could how many words have I just used to describe Spider-Man 2? Yeah. They couldn't get anything in there that would just make you think oh, this is a creepy game. This has got a vibe to it. Alan Wake. Again, no disrespect to anyone called Alan. I have plenty of friends and colleagues and stuff in the years gone by called Alan. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just
Chris hates everyone called Alan.
It's true. But yeah, so I put a Twitter poll out.
You liked Alan Shearer.
Alan Shearer is the best. What might impact Alan Wake 2 sales the most? And I put a poll up saying no physical release. So that is another bugbear for me personally as a physical collector of my PlayStation library.
We actually got
the name of the game.
Releases.
Launching in a busy launch window, of course, best year for video games, and coming out this year is also having that. Or it's time between entries. Remember, it's been 10 plus years between the last entry in the game, so maybe the fan base is kind of whittled a little bit. So far, the results of the poll show the lead is 80% have voted for a busy launch window, 13% said a no physical release, 6.7% said the name, and no one voted for time between entries. So seemingly that's not a concern. But busy launch window seems to be the potential Achilles heel for this particular title. In terms of its reviews, though, 13 years in the making, it's doing phenomenally well. GameSpot gave it a 10 out of 10, and I read from the review article. The mere existence of Alan Wake 2 would have, at different points over the years, felt like a minor miracle. But for it to be this one, that feels singular in its achievements and coming from a studio that refuses to shy away from the paths less travelled, makes Alan Wake 2 a miracle illuminated. I don't think I've ever heard a review write-up that's so articulate in its description.
That's a guy who's enamoured by the game.
Absolutely. IGN gave it a 9 out of 10. Alan Wake 2 is a superb survival horror sequel that makes the cult classic original seem a little more rough than its first draft by comparison. And it goes on. GamesHub, 5 out of 5. VCG, 5 out of 5. The Guardian, 4 out of 5. And Games Radar, 5 out of 5. The only outlier is GameRant, who gave it a 2.5 out of 5. They said even if the game's rather frustrating technical problems didn't exist, Alan Wake 2 would still be a disappointment because of its shortcomings in those departments. So seemingly there's an outlier who doesn't enjoy it as much, but price at $60.
I've opened that review and there's kind of bullet points at the bottom of the pros and cons. Pros: absolutely stunning graphics, incredible audio design, brutal and engaging combat. Cons: disappointing story, some areas are confusing to navigate, frustrating technical problems, too many cheap jump scares. So it seems to be his issues with the game seem to be more personal, apart from the technical issues he's experienced, seem to be more subjective based. That he personally wasn't into the story, or not a fan of jump scares or whatever.
And that's reviews through and through. They're always an individual's opinions.
It seems a fair. To be honest, it seems a fair take without reading the full review. It seems a fair take based on his experience.
But overall, Alan Wake 2 seemingly a roaring success. Obviously, they delayed the game a little bit to get closer to spooky season and away from the busy period. So they're maybe hoping that everyone's wrapped up on Assassin's Creed Mirage. They've wrapped up on Spider-Man 2 maybe by this launching, or maybe just be pulled in by the Halloween hype. But I'm a big fan of Remedy. Absolutely adored Control. I think it was my game of the year back in the day. And I was kind of disappointed initially when they announced they were going to do an Alan Wake 2, having not played the original. Enjoyed what I dabbled in of Quantum Break, and I enjoyed Max Payne back in the day. So they've done really, really fun games, and it's kind of in my third-person action-adventure remit, albeit with a bit more horror. So now, Richie, I have this dilemma where, because Alan Wake 2 is doing so good, and I have Alan Wake Remastered because we got it free as part of PlayStation Plus 2 months ago, I want to say. It's installed. It's on my dashboard. And I even said to the wife, it was like, you enjoy the third-person games that we play. How about for Halloween, rather than and ahhing over which movie to watch, Hocus Pocus for the umpteenth time, why don't we play Alan Wake together and see if it is? If it's super scary, we should probably stop playing along. But that's our initial plan, we think. But how about you? Alan Wake 2 doing really good. Does this do anything to bring you into the world? Do you want to go back and play the original now, or would you? Because I've heard number 2 is also quite easy to just jump into right now. I'm
definitely more inclined to give the franchise a try, because I felt the first one probably because of the name, just felt to just come and go and didn't really make huge waves, but it's become a bit of a cult classic. I think Alan Wake 2 seems to have just pushed it right. It seems to be the right game at the right time. Pushed it very much in the mainstream consciousness to the point where I'm thinking, is Alan Wake now just an established IP, where we're not going to be making fun of the name when it comes to Alan Wake 3? I'm not inclined to jump in any time soon because of just backlog issues, but I would be otherwise if I didn't have a game that I was currently playing or in other games sat waiting to play. I'd be tempted. Again, I'm not the biggest horror game fan, so that may be one of the things that didn't. But in the right mood, I could go for it. It seemed like I could go for like a Resident Evil when I'm in the right mood.
Yeah, I see that. Maybe the name would entice you in more. I'm trying to think now. I'm looking at the stills of the game, and I'm like, what could you call it? Just different.
I think Alan Wake's going to be fine. I think that's now fine.
It's locked in now. There's no change.
I think it just takes a slam dunk like this to get over that, and I think seemingly from the reviews has just nailed it.
Death Writer.
Yeah, it seems like they've done some interesting stuff with the New Game Plus as well. Where, going from their Twitter, or X if you prefer, New Game Plus coming after launch, retain all unlocked weapons and upgrades, new nightmare difficulty level, new alternative narrative, including new manuscript pages and new video content. It's quite interesting that game developers are starting to do interesting stuff with New Game Plus rather than just going, oh, you can just play the game again. Because Starfield did some very interesting stuff with New Game Plus.
Gotta mix it up. But in terms of Alan Wake and Remedy themselves, I know they always lean into the video VOD instead. Control did it, and it can be quite jarring initially, playing kind of like animated in-game engine footage, and then it pivots to like an actual cutscene with human beings acting roles out and jumping back. But I think this is where Remedy may be saving a lot of their cost. They don't have to do as much mocap. They don't have to do as much kind of in-game development, because they just get a separate team to go and just record on a set somewhere, and it seemingly works for them because the budget costs of these games are usually kept low. I think Control was praised for the turnaround and profit to budget what it made. But
Control was like a surprising, like, how have you done this with that budget?
Yeah, and and then same thing we had with Quantum Break. Why can't I think of it? Yeah. No, that's a Disney Plus show. Yeah. But in terms of that game, obviously that had the live action TV series that was supposed to run in tandem with the game launch. So you play the game, you go watch an episode of the show. You play the game, you go watch an episode. And it never really worked, but they're trying something different. That's what I think I always appreciate Remedy for. And they are doing a Max Payne remaster, and I just kind of want them to keep doing what they're doing. And I cannot wait for Control 2. But yes, we'll have to see how things land. But Alan Wake 2 got me intrigued, piqued my interest.
In some ways, I think Remedy are a developer where I don't actually want them to ramp up in size, because it seems like the size they've got, that culture they've got there, is turning out great games. You might have to wait, and you're not going to get a million different projects at once, but they seem to be just really nailing them. So I think sometimes when developers scale up, you sometimes lose a bit of the magic. But you know what, Chris? What we should talk about is the Xbox Partner Preview Roundup, which Xbox, some of the partner development studios, they had a bit of a showcase for them.
Yeah, they had the very own State of Play, some would say, on Nintendo Direct. It's a first for Xbox. They've never had these things before. They've done, obviously, their own showcases, and they had the what was it called? Developer Diaries? Developer Days?
Yeah.
They did like Developer Spotlight. They did something earlier in the year which was kind of like a deeper look into particular titles. And this seemingly, and again, I joke with a State of Play reference, but it's probably the best way to describe it. It's Xbox's gaming partners, and it's a little bit of a mini showcase of what they have from a third-party perspective coming forward. So I enjoyed it. It ran for 20, 30 minutes, I think it was. It didn't outstay its welcome. It gave us some updates, it gave us some insight, and it gave us some adverts as well. It showed off Alan Wake 2 literally, I think, the day before it came out. So one final push from Remedy there. But we got a list of games. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think I'll go through the list of games, and we can just talk about the individual ones as you like. So, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Alan Wake 2, Still Wakes the Deep, Robocop Rogue City, Metal Gear Solid Delta, Snake Eater, which we'll talk about that actually specifically later in the Metal Gear Solid block of this show, because there is a Metal Gear Solid block of this show. Dungeons of Hinterberg, Ark Survival Ascended, Manor Lords, which feels like a Rob-ass game, Icaro Will Not Die, Spirits of the North 2, and The Finals. So where would you like to start, Chris?
I want to start by giving some praise to RoboCop Rogue City. Because I've been watching this game slowly but surely come together over the last kind of 2 to 3 years, and I tried to reach out and get some codes for the beta, but the devs ignored us. I mean, they might still get back to us.
We're relatively small players, so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But they didn't even reply, so that's one thing. But, RoboCop Rogue City, I'm a big fan of the original movie. The sequels, not so much, but I even actually have the remaster reboot on Blu-ray. But RoboCop Rogue City, for those who don't know, it's very much you play as RoboCop himself, and you basically go around. They've got the original voice actor, I should say. Peter Weller is back voicing RoboCop, so they've pulled him into the world of video games for the first time. And I'm just a kind of a sucker for that kind of 80s, not sci-fi vibe, but like it has that, like Star Wars, like the technology of that time. Like sci-fi is like, people think of sci-fi as it's supposed to be futuristic, but ironically it's what people in the 70s and 80s thought the future looked like.
It's a kind of thing whereas actually, back in the 70s and 80s we're going to do like a sci-fi futuristic thing, and we're going to set in 1994 something.
Yeah, it's like a lot of like plasticky things, but all in all, like the RoboCop armor, like to get to it, it's a first-person shooter game. You go around, you basically clean up Detroit City from the criminals. You've got your badass gun, and yeah, it's one of them. I don't think it's going to be it's going to be AAA. It's going to be a AA game, but it's going to be a fun game. The music's on point, the voice acting seems to be fun. It's not taking itself too seriously. So if anyone played Terminator Resistance, which was again another game that came out I think about 3 years ago, got a similar vibe. It reviewed surprisingly well for a quote-unquote Terminator game, and it looks like they've basically got another 80s franchise. They've done the same thing, and early previews that I'm hearing and seeing, everyone's having a great time. And more importantly, when you aim down the sights, it does what RoboCop sees in his visor. It does like the green scan lines come up. And that alone is like, what?
They're the little details that make it not just a generic first-person shooter, and then make it a RoboCop game.
Absolutely, and even the way he moves in first person, don't expect like the fluidity of like Overwatch or anything like that, or sliding across the desk and
clunky.
You are a big heavy robot man, yeah, and that's exactly how it is. And just the vibe, the music, the enemies, exactly. So yeah, it looks great, and yeah, Dead or Alive, you coming with me? Fun. I think this is really up Rob Street as well, but he's never here to talk about it.
Yeah. He's skipped so many shows this week.
This week?
Yeah, one this Monday. So
RoboCop's my standout one. How about you? Any jump out? Obviously, it wasn't a big list, but
I didn't have time to watch the full showcase, so
you playing Spider-Man?
I was just basically at work, to be honest. I could have watched it last night while I was playing Spider-Man, but I didn't. I think Still Wakes Deep could be an interesting game. So Still Wakes Deep is inspired by classic horror movies. It's essentially John Carpenter's The Thing set on an oil rig. Mm-hmm. I think it seems to be one of them kind of indie kind of walking sim, like, I'm on this oil rig, you kind of walking through, figuring out the story, what kind of happened here. Kind of something like along the lines of something like Everyone's Gone to Rapture or What Remains of Edith Finch. I'm getting these kind of vibes.
Yeah, I mean the Chinese Room are the people who made Everybody's Gone to the Rapture.
Well, so I'm guessing why I'm getting them vibes.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's kind of that. But yeah, an abandoned kind of deserted oil rig. You're isolated. You're in the dark. Kind of what we were getting from the DeadSpace first look we had, where you're isolated. You're on a ship or an oil rig all to yourself. Lots of stuff like the whole rig is creaking in the rough waves, and evidently there's going to be something there that's going to stalk you or terrorize you, and that could add to a lot of elevated fear. So I think horror fans will maybe eat it up. I think the game itself probably isn't getting as much attention as it would if it was like a Resident Evil game, even if it was just in the exact same setting and standard, but just it had RE attached to it, or Dead Space.
I've got a feeling this is going to be a bit of a sleeper hit, and that when the codes get out and like the game professional game like journalists and stuff get their hands on it, I've just got this feeling like they're gonna see something in it, like things like Edith Finch and Rapture, like where these are going. Well, on paper you look at them games and go, what is this? And then when you play it, you go, oh, I get it. I think it's going to be one of them.
Yeah, I agree. It's not due to come out until 2024. No. So if they're smart, maybe push it to this time next year. Like again, get in with that horror vibe.
Yeah, that I think would be kind of perfect. It depends on what it's scheduled for 2024, but we don't have a clue what part of the year. But this might be a nice move. Like, right, we're going to talk about it here, remind people it exists, and we're going to go quiet. Then maybe like Summer Games Fest, we're going to drop the date.
Yeah.
For Halloween 2024. I think that could be a move.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one, which was the last one, ironically, the final one to be shown, was the finals. And I wanted to bring this up because It's a free-to-play game. It's a first-person shooter, and we normally wouldn't go too much in depth about it, but it actually looked quite good. We've got fair games coming up, and we've had all of these other kind of attempts at it. It seems like a similar theory where you're trying to attempt to steal a safe from a location, and there's multiple teams at work within the world, kind of similar to Apex Legends. And it had like an art style to the trailer that actually looked quite good. Like they all try and do their own art style to make them stand out and unique, and a lot of them end up unfortunately suffering and looking the same as each other. We've criticised a lot of games for just looking like generic ass, generic game. A lot of them start
looking either just like Call of Duty or like Fortnite.
Yeah, when it cuts to like,
it's like
here's a couple of skins or something, and if like, you've got like your Rockstar skin, your Millennial skin, you've got your Racer skin. It's like there's only so much you can do with it without having like IP attached to it. Like Fortnite have like thrived from just tying themselves to popular IP. But yeah, the finals it looks, I'd say, stand out enough to be good. Closed beta kicks off this week on Xbox if you're looking to check it out. But it looks like a chaotic fun. However, I do feel like it might just suffer the same fate as a lot of free-to-play games. But Embark Studios have done probably what they can.
I think this could be a game, when I'm watching the trailer right now, this could be one of them games that the crowd who's currently playing things like Overwatch, who've been playing Overwatch since they were kids, might graduate to something like this. If they don't want to go full Call of Duty, because Call of Duty can be quite serious, or don't want to go even further like in that direction, like to Rainbow Six Siege, they want something still a bit slapstick, still a bit comedic, with a bit of a vibrant art style. Mm-hmm. I think this could be that stepping stone in that sort of direction as that audience matures.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's made by ex-Battlefield devs as well, so they've got pedigree in the team of like what they want to do. The beta, I said, is running for the whole week.
Some Battlefield's been very hit or miss.
But shooter-wise, like mechanically, always sound games. Same with kind of Call of Duty. Like regardless of how good or bad the game is, like mechanically, the shooting is just on point. You can't usually get better than it. So, it's got a couple of different game modes. Go check it out. But yeah, I wanted to highlight it because normally I wouldn't really go into it, but I think it did enough. I want to give it some credit where credit's due, because I've watched a lot of first-person free-to-play team shooters over the last several years, and this one actually had my attention a bit more than I expected. Final one from you, Richie, to pull out, because we'll talk about Metal Gear later on. So that was obviously the biggest thing of the whole showcase, because no one expected to see like actual in-game engine stuff, but we'll get to that in a short while.
I think I want to maybe look at Dungeons of Hinterberg, because it's something I'm just trying to pick something again just quite different, and I think it's got a very interesting like art style, because it's very much like hand-drawn comic booky kind of art style.
Looks beautiful. It's got very
with the dialogue, when it's got like the cutouts for like a comic book, it's kind of got that. So I think
it's like Hi-Fi Rush
for a vibe. Yeah. So reading from GameSpot, ahead of its 2024 release, developer Curve Games showed off a new look at Dungeons of Hinterberg. It's adventurous new games that combines fantasy, exploration, and Australian Alps tourism. As Louisa,
of course,
players will work to conquer the 25 dungeons of Hinterberg and work on the social skills in this energetic slaycation simulator. It seems to be almost taking like some sort of elements from like a Persona game, where we're integrating like the social element of your character with like the dungeon crawling kind of combat-y stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there could be something interesting there. I think I want to see more though than what was currently seen, to kind of get a bigger grasp of what the game is. But you've got my attention.
Yeah. I mean, if we think Curve Digital as well, some of the games that we've played in the past to give you a vibe of usually the type of fun vibe to go for. So the partner, so this is a publisher, so they did Ember before, if you remember Ember, Richie, Human Fall Flat, they've done before, and they also did From Space. So if you think of like the kind of, that's the size and scope of the games that we're used to playing, think of that, but kind of apply it to something a little bit more story and social wise.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting some like Persona inspiration. So like as you're leveling up your relationship with characters, that then has impact into how the combat plays out when you're probably in the dungeons. So I'm guessing the way it's going to work is you're going to be based in like the Austrian. I said Australian earlier, it's Austrian You're going to be based in the Austrian Alps, probably like a kind of sleepy like mountain town sort of thing, and you get into like know all the characters in there, and then you descend into the dungeons from there. So I think there's something potentially really cool in there.
Absolutely. Fun fact, after your just little word slip up there, is in the Austrian airport, I think it might be is it Salzburg? Yeah. They have an actual counter for how many people have flew to Australia instead of Austria by accident.
That's awesome.
I learned that this week. Probably because of this game. It was probably on some gaming content I listened to. But yeah, imagine that when you find out the flight's actually 15 hours instead, or even longer. And then I guess the final one I do want to draw some highlight to is Ark Survival Ascended, because the original Ark game, I think the servers got pulled, right? Prematurely, we said. And then the sequel, Ark 2, featuring Vin Diesel, isn't out yet. We don't know when that's coming. So this is the switch over to Unreal. They basically moved the entire game, all its add-ons and stuff, over to the new Unreal Engine 5. Game looks gorgeous, dinosaurs look beautiful, and we know Ark has a massive following, even after the shit show of a port over to Google Stadia back in the day, and then dropping the servers and then trying to charge people. If you remember, there was a problem with
brilliant.
There was the port which had problems, but then if you remember, they tried to charge people for the bundle to buy the game again for the Ascended version, and then they kind of backtracked it in the end. But yeah, Ark Survival Ascended, it's looks gorgeous, and yeah, big one for Ark fans.
Should point as well, Dungeons of Hinterberg and Still Wakes of Deep both confirmed to get for Game Pass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so the two I picked. If you got Game Pass, you're getting them, which makes me happy because I'm getting these games now. So let's quickly, Chris, talk a bit about BlizzCon. It's not something we typically go into depth on, but now it's owned by Microsoft. I think it's worth just mentioning it. The broadcast schedule is up. So it'll be broadcast on November the 3rd and November the 4th. Starting obviously with the opening ceremony. It's got stuff from World of Warcraft, Overwatch, WoW Classic, Hearthstone, the kind of stuff you'd expect. Are you expecting anything different now Microsoft are involved?
I expect them to confirm every game coming to Xbox Game Pass.
I mean, that'd be
it's like an end of show thing.
Yeah, that would be a huge.
I mean, no, realistically, it's probably too soon. Like, it would be such a baller mic drop moment to at the end after the K-pop band had performed and wrapped up the night, they just go, "Oh, and by the way." But no, realistically, Blizzard games aren't really my scene. World of Warcraft Classic, if that could get a console port to Xbox, that would be probably the only thing that would get me back in, because I love the original ones. Give me Warcraft 4. Just Warcraft 4. I
don't think Warcraft 4 is happening yet. But now Phil Spencer's involved, the ex-boss himself. I think that could happen, because he's name dropping Hexen the other week.
Yeah. We got Age of Empires eventually.
Yeah, he does seem to have a bit of a fondness for bringing older titles if there's a passion for it within the teams. And I imagine there's people at Blizzard want to make a Warcraft 4. Warcraft 3?
Absolutely.
Warcraft 3.
3? No, we've had 3.
3 was Reigns of Chaos and Frozen Throne. Yeah, so it would be Warcraft 4. I'm sure there's people at Blizzard who want to do it. And probably being told, no, Warcraft is now an MMO. Shut up and make me lots of money. So says Bobby Kotick.
It's like... I know that it's happened a few times before, actually, with was it one of the Yakuza titles, pivoted? It's just switching almost genre completely. Because I was such a big fan of Warcraft 3. I played it so much. Oh, and then World of Warcraft came out and I was like, huh? My brain as a child couldn't transition over to it, and then my parents obviously wouldn't pay a monthly subscription for it. And it was kind of like, well, I guess I'm not playing it. And then...
This could be
and then that was the end of my history with Warcraft, and it wasn't through any doing of my own. It was just the franchise pivoted to something that I wasn't there for.
I actually don't know if you still need to pay a monthly subscription for World of Warcraft, but let's assume for the sake of this conversation that you do. That could be an interesting integration with Game Pass. So maybe Game Pass gives you your monthly subscription and the base version of the game. So you'd have to buy everything but the most recent expansion. So you still have to buy the new expansion as it comes out. But then if you got Game Pass, you just got the game. Because I think that could do actually quite a lot for revitalising the audience for this game. When you got people who haven't played Warcraft in a long time, it's suddenly dropping on PC Game Pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be more difficult to get the console version going, because there probably have to be some actual development done there. But the PC side...
They've done it with Age of Empires. Like, there's a lot of good versions now of games that play well with the controller. Jurassic World Evolution, another one. Like, it wouldn't traditionally work on console, but they've got it to run.
Significantly smaller games in World of Warcraft, though. So this is what I mean. It's doable. It is doable, but there would have to be some actual development put into it to get it to work. Although that being said, games like World of Warcraft have been made. Like, look at something like Dragon Age, and that works absolutely fine. It's not, you're not reinventing the wheel, you just need to actually build the wheel.
Just configure it. Yeah. Configure the wheel.
Yeah, configure the wheel. How many spokes do you want in this wheel, Chris? And,
all the spokes.
One of the reasons I bring up BlizzCon, actually, is because there's rumours of Diablo 4 DLC. And a data miner has leaked some information. Apparently it's going to be called Lord of Hatred. Which, think this could be at BlizzCon?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I know Diablo 4's had like a couple of highs and lows where it had such a fantastic launch, and then it suffered with, I think, one of the big patch updates, kind of threw a lot of people off, and the very passionate audience made that clear, and they had to kind of backtrack on a couple of things. Yeah, and then it took the wind out of its sails, and then Baldur's Gate's kind of swept in and went, okay, we'll have all the honours instead, and Baldur's Gate, as far as I'm aware, hasn't slipped up yet. So I think they need that kind of final big push for the end of the year, and I think BlizzCon seemingly is the absolute perfect platform, right? To
I think
give
the
another
difference
boost.
is Diablo is a games as a service, so the basic development is a continuous thing. Baldur's Gate isn't. It's like, here's the game. Yeah. There you go. We'll patch it. There's still going to be stuff going on. We may make DLC. We may not. I don't actually know what the DLC plans are off the top of my head. But with Diablo, because Diablo especially being a multiplayer game, they have to think a lot about balancing. So they've made a good game. Everyone's fallen in love with it, and their attempts to do some balancing between classes has just seemingly broke it. But But there is a Diablo 4 campfire chat scheduled as part of BlizzCon, and if they weren't planning to announce this DLC, I think they probably should now, because it's out there.
I mean, they've also got a past history at BlizzCon, right?
Didn't they announce to do it?
Didn't they announce Diablo Mobile and piss everyone off a few years back when everyone thought it was going to be 4, and it was like, oh no, it's mobile.
Thing. That's the thing. It was the one more thing as well. It wasn't just they just announced a Diablo Mobile game, because that in itself is not a problem. It's a one more thing, and stood on stage acting as if this should be an amazing, exciting thing, and there's a room full of Diablo fans going, nah.
What? Yeah, so they've got a history of slipping up, so maybe they'll correct course with something at BlizzCon.
That's one way you just have to lean into the humour of, like, yeah, we fucked up. You just make it a joke. Like, I would love them to come on stage and go, we're going to announce Diablo Mobile 2, and watch it. There's the silence and go, actually, now it's Diablo 5. Here's the trailer.
Dun, drop it, yeah.
Just a bit of tongue-in-cheek thing there.
I agree.
Talking about horror games, Chris, because we are in the spooky season.
We are.
Let's pick our favourite spooky game from Game Pass on PlayStation Plus.
So one of the things we wanted to talk about this week is, I think in the past we've done on previous shows like our best horror games of all time and stuff, but with this one being a more news topical show, we thought if you're thinking you've got that itch this week, why not play something a bit spookier?
I'm going to rule out DeadSpace as well. We're ruling out DeadSpace for the sake of this conversation, because that's an easy yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's
the
biggest title. Yeah, Dead Space, absolutely, it's in there. Lies of P, again, is still another one that is quite fresh on Game Pass. So it's not horror like jump scare horror, but it's got that kind of gothic, spooky, dark, crazy new world. One of the ones I'm going to pivot towards, because I'm such a huge fan of it, is Plague Tale. Again, it's not like traditional horror, but the world of like bubonic plague and infestation, and the kind of the colour palette of the Plague Tale games is very much, if you're just in that vibe, you want something a bit dark, yeah, Plague Tale for me. Any that jump out for you for Game Pass in particular, Richie?
I'm going through the list. I'm trying to think of something a bit older, like more of a classic kind of thing. I mean, Back 4 Blood's on there. That's never going to be a bad time.
It's a good thing with horror. There's so many different variations of it as well, isn't there? It's not just about being scared. There's also eerie action.
I mean, I've just finished Sea of Stars. That actually has an entire island that is pretty much horror themed. Mm-hmm. You got things like The Witcher, which is I wouldn't describe as a horror game, but you are hunting monsters, and there's literally a coven of witches in that game. So,
of
of
course, the original Dead Space trilogy is on there if you want to go back and play the 360 versions of it.
It is.
Me personally, I'm going to wait for all the remasters. Seems like the best approach to do now.
Yes, I obviously things like Resident Evil is always a good shout for like horror games.
Which Resis are on there?
I don't know. I haven't got the far.
I don't think any are there.
It's in alphabetical order, unfortunately, and I'm up to D.
Speaking of D, then Death's Door was a good one for me. Again, not like a horror game, but you play as a little crow whose job is to go round up souls for.
You mentioned that.
I guess the devil. Yeah. I did I do a first? I don't think I did a first look. I think we intended to do one, but I played it on the Razer Kishi and stuff, and it's a bit more whimsical horror, I would say. You go into all these like little dungeon areas and killing different creatures to gather souls of other animals. So yeah, that was super fun.
Resident Evil 7 is available on PlayStation Plus.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
It's the only Resident Evil. I knew there was a Resident Evil there somewhere. You've got
Doom.
Yeah.
Couple obviously all the Bethesda Dooms are now available on Game Pass as well.
Maybe Redfall. Redfall's been getting some updates and stuff.
Yeah, but out of those we've just listed,
there was Scorn got a bit of critical acclaim when it came out. I personally wasn't fond of it, but you might be. It's very kind of body horror. Everything's quite slimy in that game. Like,
it's a sticky game.
Yeah, it's very sticky.
Game. If anyone's excited for Hellblade, Senua's whatever the sequel's called, Senua's sequel. The first one's obviously free on Game Pass as well, and that's the kind of that's more psychological.
I think that's a game we need to play at some point.
Yeah, I think building up to the second one, I'm curious to get into the first one, because originally I didn't play the first one because Microsoft bought the studio, and at the time I only had a PS5, and I thought, well, I ain't going to play the first game even though it's highly rated, because the sequel probably will never come to PS5. So I ain't going to play the first if I can't play the second one. And now I'm in a world where I own an Xbox, I have Game Pass. So why not jump in and get in? Because the one of the things about that game, it was all like voices in her head, like the psyche of the main protagonist having just like to tussle with like in a monologue and demons and stuff like that. So
yeah, even maybe something like Hollow Knight.
Yeah, I enjoyed Hollow Knight. I have it on the Switch. Yeah. Really good.
But you know what? It should be the definitive Halloween game, Super Mario 64.
Why is that the definitive Halloween game?
Because it's a great
when you
game.
When you say wouldn't Luigi's Mansion be closer?
Nah, 64's better.
It's better, but is it more horror specific?
The horror level is.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. I was going to say...
I was doing it as a joke.
If you want to go typical trope, Walking Dead, the Telltale series, that's all
amazing. Limbo, just seen that on the list. That's a great
game. Is Inside in there as well?
I'm on L, so I'd imagine so.
It's still going through alphabetically. Yeah. It's just us picking out the best horror games. Which ones... Is Alien Isolation just dropped on Game Pass? Or was that removed from Game Pass? It's PlayStation Plus just got Alien Isolation this month, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to go with PlayStation Plus Alien Isolation is what I'm going to go with. That's the problem with things alphabetical. I did look at trying to get the lists in genre.
The PlayStation list is better to navigate because you've got like the filters by letter.
Yeah, but neither Xbox or PlayStation had horror as a genre. It had like action adventure, all this.
That seems odd considering this time of year.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Zombie Army 4, great shout if you're a fan of like the Sniper Elite games. We played was it Zombie Army 3 we must have played on Stadia back in the day.
It might have been 4.
Or what was it 4? It might have been 4. In my mind, one of them didn't come to Stadia because Rebellion just stopped supporting the platform, but 4 or 3.
The stream's on the channel, so you guys can all go back and watch it.
But like popping zombies, like hell, you know what? Go play Call of Duty Zombies. Zombies are just horror through and through.
In World at War, I played World at War on the PC. I had mods, and the mods were, we're just going to create more maps.
More and more zombies. Actually, you know what? Speaking of zombies, Richie, we had a cracking time playing World War Z.
We did.
Like, we played all the co-op scenarios, so that all like 1 through 6, I think, and every one of them was just, I cannot not have fun when it's just hordes of things coming at me, and I have like so much ammo, and you're just peppering things with bullets and taking them down.
They're not great games, but they are fun games.
Yeah, they're double layer fun. Absolutely.
Have you ever played the Evil Within, Chris?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Evil Within 1 and 2, both on Game Pass. Anyway, let us know in the comment what your favourite Halloween game, horror game, or in that ballpark.
You know what? I'd like some recommendations from people, because I think the best thing with horror is, like, you can always look at game reviews, but I think horror's a little bit different because it is such a particular genre. Like, it's split across so many things. Like, yeah, what do you enjoy? Are you a Slenderman person? We played Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah,
we got some good jump scares out of that.
We did. Surprisingly good, actually, that game. I was expecting to hate it, and while I never really had the desire to go back and play more of it, I thought it was perfectly enjoyable for what I did play.
Are you going to go see the movie?
No.
No, me neither. I keep getting hit with the trailers for the movie.
I was asked by someone at work the other day about that. I was like, "I'm going to see the movie." He's like, "I didn't even know there was one," and no.
Yeah, it's got Peter from the Hunger Games in.
Yeah,
but you know who's missing a trick looking through these lists? I've just realised. Get a game out that begins with Q, because there is nothing in the PlayStation Plus library that begins with Q. So that whole alphabetical column is yours for the taking. I mean, Qubit.
If we're talking about games out, we should talk about Ubisoft.
Maybe not out.
Yeah,
but yeah,
try a bit harder.
Where should we drop the anchor on this story, Richie?
So Ubisoft, well-known attempted publisher for a game called Skull and Bones, which have been literally trying to release for years at this point, has been delayed again. Chris, is there any chance of this game being good?
I'm fed up of talking about it. We've been covering games on this channel now for 4 and a bit years. And this game's been in development for twice that time. And still, remember, this game was supposed to come out the same week as God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And God of War Ragnarok is so far in my rearview mirror now. It's absolutely baffling that it just keeps happening. It just shows you how much development hell this game has been through. Like, I don't think they're going to can it now, because it's had far too much publicity and gameplay and betas, and the Singapore government, you're right, has like some buy into it, so they have to release it for legal reasons. But we've said that probably time and time again. If you go back, there's probably so many instances of us talking about this game, so I don't want to lament on it too long. The best thing Ubisoft can honestly do, I think, for everyone's sake, to get the most eyes on it, is just make it free to play. Like, that could be what they're tweaking now, is like, look, we can't make any money off it, because remember, it was up for pre-order for 70 quid. And then they pulled the pre-orders and refunded people because it got delayed, then delayed, and delayed. So I think they tweak the model, go free to play with cosmetic charges, and try and recoup your losses. If it is a good game, get the player base in, and then recoup through that. Put it on Ubisoft Plus, get some maybe extra subs for that. But I don't think anyone's buying this for 70 quid unless you're just a big pirate fan.
I feel the problem with this game is because they've backed themselves into such a corner where I think this needs to almost be a 9 or 10 out of 10 in order to be even remotely considered not a complete utter flop. It has to be. I think it has to be that good now, because otherwise, if this comes out and it's just an 8 out of 10, I think it would just become a joke. It'll be one of these games that we talk about. Do you remember Skull and Bones? Like that was just a disaster, and it could even at a 7 out of 10 find an audience, keep the sustainability, and eventually have almost like a redemption arc. But I don't know, it just seems the ship's leaking. There's a hole in the side of the hull. It's capsized and everyone's drowning.
At this point, it's pretty much like the Black Pearl from Pirates of the Caribbean. It's sunk, it's gone. It needs to be brought up back from the death by Davy Jones.
And it feels like they're having to just, sometimes you get a game in development and it's a buggy mess. Things are not quite clicking. You change 1 or 2 mechanics and suddenly it works. This almost feels like from a fundamental design, it's not good. But to put like a finer pin on it, Richie, this game has been in development since you were 23 years old. Yeah.
just to make you realise like how much of your life you've lived.
I turn 34 next month. You're already 34.
Yeah. This game's been in development as long as the time I've been with my girlfriend/wife. Like that's like how long it is, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went delayed till fiscal year 23-24. So we should
still
see
2024, but it was due for March, and the date's basically been removed.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know.
I think Ubisoft the removing of the date suggests it's not probably going to be April.
Yeah, Ubisoft are fortunate that they sit on kind of some elements of money making. Like if they didn't have Assassin's Creed, we'd be probably telling a much riskier story for Ubisoft's future right now.
Yeah, I mean, we are still talking about Ubisoft delays because there's another game that's potentially getting delayed, Chris, and I think we're both going to be disappointed in this. Star Wars Outlaws. So Ubisoft are delaying large-scale games, and reports suggest Star Wars Outlaws could be one of them.
They never put a date on it though, right? It had 2024 when it was teased.
Yeah, the title was previously confirmed for 2024. I mean, it's speculation that this game could be pushed back. The company has decided to launch this other large game in financial year 2024-25, but the report isn't specific that it is Outlaws. It's speculation that it is. Because what other big games have got in the works?
We don't know. You'd imagine like another Far Cry game, Assassin's Creed Red. Like they have some big titles in development, but again, it's until we get an official name. I guess the thing with these ones is I expect delays to these big AAA games now, and we've seen it like nearly every AAA game has seen a delay of some sort over the last few years, whether it was COVID impacted it or just development costs or wanting to make the game polished and finished. We don't want another Cyberpunk scenario on our hands.
It almost feels like the publishers need to recalibrate how they view things. That the timelines they're giving is not matching up with the timelines that the developers need on a big scale at the moment. Because it's more the publisher will be setting the dates and the targets, and the developers are going, well, it's not going to be done, so we need more time. So then you have to it almost feels like they probably just need to, with as much as we like a roadmap here, Stadia, almost keep the cards closer to the chest in terms of release dates till they know they're going to be able to hit it.
Yeah. But again, delay game. Happy to wait, especially if it's one seemingly as promising as Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah. Do you know what is seemingly promising, Chris? Metal Gear Solid. We finally got to the Metal Gear Solid block of it.
Snake Eater.
I think we'll actually start with Metal Gear Solid 1. Or Master Collection Volume 1, because we got some reviews for it, Chris.
Woohoo. What have we got?
So, GameSpot, Konami has still to put together a comprehensive bundle collecting 5 highly influential games and multiple variations from a period spanning 20... Konami has still put together a comprehensive bundle collecting 5 highly influential games and multiple variations from a period spanning 24 years. 8 out of 10. We're getting mainly 8s and 7s.
Yeah, it seems... So, Push Square 8 out of 10, GameSpot 8 out of 10... It seems like it is what we expected, a collection of classic games. Again, Metal Gear Solid in their own right, all terrific games, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Older games, it has to be said. I don't think one's kind of camera controls and camera angles hold up as well, and this is why we know. I think this should all be taken with a pinch of salt, because for me, this is about video game preservation. In one hand, it's disappointing that they haven't really gone in and done anything mechanically with these games to make them play better or function better.
It's a remaster. It's not even a remaster.
It's a collection, port, isn't it? It's it's a port. The ironic thing is a lot of these ports are to the HD collection, just ported. Like straight up, when you boot up the 2 and 3, it even has the Bluepoint logo from when Bluepoint ported the games back originally. So they haven't even bothered to kind of redo anything with that. It is just a straight port of those old HD ports.
I actually like that, because I think something about game preservation should sometimes be about taking a classic game, warts and all, and just pouring on new hardware. And just not changing anything about the game. Especially, now we're living in the world of remakes, such as Metal Gear Solid Delta, which is a remake of 3.
Yeah.
then you have the best of both worlds. Because then if you're a purist and want to play the experience as it was originally envisioned, you can. But if you want to play through the same narrative, but with modern sensibilities, you also can. I think that is just good.
Yeah. That's kind of where I sit on this. Like, it's preservation at its, I guess, most basic. You can do the overlays, and there's a lot of stuff that they've added in there. Like, you can go through and read like the full scripts of the games, the layout, some of the behind the scenes artwork stuff, which you would always expect in a kind of collection of sorts, just to kind of honour the heritage. But yeah, like you said, if you really want to wait, just hang fire for Delta, aka 3 Remastered or remade or rebooted or whatever it looks like, and get it in all its Unreal Engine 5 glory. We saw some gameplay trailer from this year, but the ports in question, it's these ones I was thinking of. It's the PlayStation Vita HD collection by Bluepoint Games, which of course Bluepoint, PlayStation-owned studio now. They did 2 and 3. This is why there's only 2/3 were done by them.
I've just looked at some of the Steam reviews because it's currently getting mixed reviews on Steam. And a lot of them are just complaining, oh, yeah, the game looks a bit blurry and a bit pixelated. It's not good by today's standards. Well, it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
You're missing the point in this. This is not meant to be a game made to today's standards. This is a game that came out a long time ago that has just been brought up so you can play it again on modern hardware.
And this is what I think people expect, like, from a collection. People just maybe wanted, I think they expected more, but again, this is where you kind of blur the lines between what's a collection, what's a remaster, what's a reboot. You could take a collection and make it better, like the Uncharted collection that Bluepoint did. They did a lot of work into making it look better and feel better in terms of like button mapping and stuff like that as well, modernising it a little bit, but they ultimately didn't mess with it because you don't need to.
It comes down, I think for me, the difference between like a collection remaster and remake is, a collection is, this is just how it was. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
A remaster is, we've took the original source code and all the original art assets and stuff, and then kind of, repolished the game, kind of remade the game, but with the original content that went to make it. Remake is when you start making new content, changing up the assets and stuff that you've used. Mm-hmm. So a remake could be kind of true to the original, but with new assets. But if there's always going to be limitations with a remaster, because if the art asset was only made at max 1080p, that ain't going to look good in 4K. It's just not how that works. Yeah. So there's some stuff there. Sticking with it, rumours of the Collection 2. I mean, the Collection 2 has already been kind of heavily rumoured, if not announced.
It was on their website coding, wasn't it, when it first announced?
And I don't think there's going to be anyone surprised that it's going to be Metal Gear Solid 4, 5 and Peace Walker.
I think Peace Walker's a surprise because it was a PSP title. Same with Acid. I think I had Acid on the PSP. Oh, Peace Walker might have been a Vita. It was PSP. Portable Ops, I think, was another one, but it seems to be they're going to take the best of that bunch, which was, in fact, Peace Walker. And Peace Walker evolved into what became, essentially, the framework for Metal Gear Solid 5. There was a lot of like similar stuff, like building your base and collecting people for your team and that kind of thing, without the full-ton balloons to take you away. But I think they're going to take a little bit more work to gather together, but they're probably going to be the more revered of the collections on Steam, especially because I think 5 and 4 will hold up a lot better because they were done in better engines. Again, I said when I was playing 007 Bloodstone for a PS3 game, held up really well. Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5 will still probably hold up really, really well. Well, especially 5 because it's a PS4 game. But
yeah, I mean, it looks beautiful as well. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Probably still looks great to this day, but yeah, 4 will be the interesting one because that's currently unplayable on PlayStation.
Really? Completely unplayable?
Well, it was a PS3 game. There's no backwards compatibility on PS4 or 5 by proxy.
It's not on cloud.
It's not on cloud or digital, so ironically you have to play it through Xbox.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, so this collection will be great, and it'll be nice to see like the whole. I'm guessing they'll do like a bundle with both of them tied together, like the ultimate bundle. But it's just Konami making the most out of it.
I mean, the leaks is coming from like a data mine of Metal Gear Solid 1 has tags that reference 4, 5 and Peace Walker. Oh, well, it says PW, but clearly Peace Walker. Yeah. So that's why people are assuming that the second collection will be these 3 games. And I think that feels about right. Just lump these 3 games in together. There you go, and there's your collection's kind of done, really. Unless apart maybe some more deeper cuts.
Actually, I just want to add to that as well. Metal Gear Solid 4, it was exclusive to PS3, so it never came to Xbox. So you just literally cannot play it now.
Yeah,
as it stands
so if
on
you
console.
want to play Metal Gear Solid 4, you have to go buy a PS3, which is not available routinely on retail, so second-hand, and a second-hand copy of the game. Is the PS3 digital store still up?
I would say no.
Yeah, so good luck.
Because we're 2 generations
So
detached.
Konami, get these games out, please. But, Chris, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
Snake Eater.
It looks beautiful.
Unreal 5, man. We're on the cusp of it now. We're going to start.
Beautiful.
We're going to really start to see the quality of Unreal 5, which I remember was teased years ago now with that the clip of the young girl in the canyon with some kind of powers jumping around. It looked beautiful, like the rocks tumbling down, the sand, the light reflection, everything. And then now, several years on from that, we're starting to see it come to life. It's in devs' hands. Games are coming to fruition, and we're in for a treat. Like, smaller titles are going to look like AAA titles.
Yeah.
Thanks to this tech. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, we got it at the Xbox Partner Program. We got a new trailer with actual gameplay footage in there. If they pull this off, this is probably one of the prettiest games I think I've ever seen. Like,
well, they start with
the
3
lighting on it is amazing.
through the leaves.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, where you can see light through something, like, you know, like light through the back of your ear, where it would glow. Like, there's a specific term for it, but yeah, again, starting with 3 is a clever choice, because I think 1 and 2, by proxy of the age they are and what the theme was, it was very like dark and like dull blue tones in the rain usually, whereas 3 was the standout vibrant in the jungle, all the greens and the yellows and stuff. So
Isn't
I think
also
putting that
chronologically the first game as well.
Yeah, that's why I think they've gone for that one. It's just, if they're going to retell that story for a modern audience, it kind of wins on a bunch of fronts. That's why I think they've went with Delta rather than going straight in with it.
Yeah, I mean, Delta is also free because the triangle. So it's they've clearly, the marketing execs got excited when they came up with that idea, patting themselves on the back.
But yeah, obviously we only saw a snippet of it and it didn't show much. We still don't know if David Hayter's voice is there. They've not confirmed that yet. He doesn't say anything in the trailer. But it's looking good. I still think we're maybe 2 years or so out, perhaps, but could be sooner.
Yeah, it'd be great if the fact that it's being at this Xbox Partner Program makes me think it's probably not going to be Game Awards as well, unless they double dip the same trailer, which they could do. Which makes me think that it's more likely at the earliest late next year.
Yeah.
But probably, I'd take a stab and go 2025 for this, though.
Yeah, I'd hazard a guess to probably that as well. It'll be at the Game Awards. No, it won't be at the Game Awards, because Jeff Keighley does not like Konami for Kojima's treatment, does he?
No.
So maybe we'll just see that every Xbox event going forward.
Could be, yeah. Interesting, though, because I always associate Metal Gear Solid with PlayStation.
Yeah, same. I think a lot of people do, especially 4, because it's exclusive.
Well, again, like Crash Bandicoot, literally an Xbox mascot now.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what isn't an Xbox mascot, Chris? The PlayStation 5 Slim's optional Blu-ray drive.
No, it's certainly not. What about it?
Apparently you need the internet to use it.
This is the new one, right?
Yes. So this is the optional Blu-ray drive for the PS5 Slim, in quotations there, because it's not actually called Slim. We're just referring to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the new PS5 model, essentially, which is imminently due out. I've seen rumours that it's already started circulating across like retail.
Yeah, there's been some boxes seen in the wild. That's not a surprise. That I'm guessing they want it out before Christmas.
Yeah, I mean Black Friday, they probably want it out on shelves before then. So you've only got a few weeks until then. November's this week, so
I wouldn't be surprised if it's released today. To be honest, I think that close, but there's a weird caveat with the optional Blu-ray drive, because PS5 Slim, I'm going to call it Slim until it's actually announced and it just becomes the PS5, just to differentiate between the current versions. There has an optional Blu-ray drive, so that's how it works. So if you want a Blu-ray drive, so the disc version basically already comes with the optional Blu-ray drive. The digital version doesn't, but you can buy it later. But you apparently need an internet connection to pair the disc drive to the console, which I've seen some criticism over this because with physical media is great for game preservation. But then if you have to have an internet connection, and also at what point could Sony decide to just discontinue that and now your disc drive doesn't work? It feels a weird thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's something that it's maybe been blown out of proportion where it probably is just a caveat that it needs to connect. Because like, it's the same with now, like if I turn on my PS3 now, it still has like a firmware update that Sony pushed many, many years after I stopped using it. But it wants to do the update immediately. It's usually based in security. Like for security reasons, they always try and update it before like just cutting gamers off as their priority. But I mean, in a way, it kind of makes sense that it needs to pair it, but at the same time, why? Yeah, I'm sure it's just something that probably is overlooked, and it won't. They'll probably remedy it or fix it or something. But at the end of the day, in my mind, it's like it's a USB powered disk drive that just gets plugged in and it just works.
Yeah, it feels like you could have whatever drivers needed to run it just installed.
Yeah. It might be the stock. They might have like third-party partners in the future, maybe, or something like that.
This is where I'm thinking it's potentially to stop third-party partners, because then they'll do some sort of like verification, a digital rights management style verification that you use an official Sony hardware, so you can't just plug in a aftermarket disk drive and it work.
Yeah, I mean, it might be something like, again, we're a long way from it, but if it was accessible or open up to third-party disc drives, as you so said, at what point can you like copy games, like burn discs almost, and then is it at risk of PS5 games being copied? But then, again, we're talking very old school, but if you open your console up to a disc drive, that potentially could open up to old school burning discs, right? Not that anyone would probably know how to do it anymore, but your dad's mate who lives around the corner could do it, and again, it's all down to security and fraud and stuff, isn't it?
But realistically now, games, the reason you have such a usual big day one patch on games is because the full game isn't on the disc.
Yeah,
it's just not how game development works now. So you get
unless you're Spider-Man 2.
Unless you're Spider-Man 2, yeah, it happens occasionally, but for a lot of games, the disc is often just an installer.
Yeah,
and usually needs a day one update so you can actually play the game. Well, it was just an interesting kind of weird thing. It's like, that seems a bit odd. Why are you doing that? Well, and Sony have been known to be kind of anti-consumer as well at times, so that I think that always gives you a bit of a, what's this you're doing there? Seems sort of thing.
What?
But putting Sony in a good light, PS5 cloud streaming is now available for us in Europe, and actually, as of today, it'll be rolling out in the Americas.
Ah, finally, after many, many years. I've heard some good things over the weekend. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet because I've just been playing Spider-Man 2 when I can. But it's weird in a way. Like, after our DeadSpace stream the other night, we were saying like how flawlessly Xbox Cloud Gaming had worked to play that. I think you had some trouble getting into the queue and
it's just queue. They
just
need to scale up the servers, but we know Xbox have kind of deprioritized it a bit, and I think that's largely because of Death Stadia, Luna like fumbling, Sony kind of not making huge moves.
Yeah,
they've got time.
But then this is where it's just going to slowly exist in the background. It has done at Sony for quite some time, but a lot of our friends on socials and stuff who are big into the cloud gaming scene, I've heard nothing but good things. Like, there's a couple of people out there who have like tweeted out and just said like, "Yep, runs great, performance, fidelity, terrific." So I'm going to check out one or two things, probably over the next week or so, and just see how it streams.
I always think the cloud streaming is actually quite useful for us as content creators who usually try to play different games every week, because it means that we don't have to download the game. Although I do think this current iteration is more limited than I'd like, because it's only on the PS5 console, so you can't use it on your phone, you can't use it on your PC to play this. So I do think there is some limitations there that they kind of need to work around, but I think this is a good start. And when this was announced it was happening, I took this as I'm actually surprised. This is a nice surprise. So keep it up, Sony. Keep working on it, keep developing it, and eventually, hopefully, we'll get to see. It'll get to the point where it becomes a lot more ubiquitous.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think we wrap up today, Chris, with two quick success stories. So Mario Wonder recently came out, rave reviews, is the fastest selling Mario game ever in Europe.
Any surprise?
Yeah, actually.
Based on the amount of Switches in the wild?
Yeah.
And we haven't had a Mario game since Odyssey?
I am surprised, actually, because I know there's a lot of Switches out there. I know people have been clamouring for 2D Mario, but to be the fastest ever selling Mario game in Europe, that's a big title to take. You're going up against things like Super Mario 64, some of the classic Marios and the SNES and things like that.
But again, how many Switches are in the wild compared to the N64?
Admittedly, yeah, there's absolutely tons of them.
N64
I think Nintendo's
sales.
numbers are juiced by people who tend to have sometimes multiple Switches.
So N64, Richie, as of September 2023, had sold 32.9 million units across the world. Mm-hmm. The Switch has sold, 125 plus?
Yeah,
so
but
the
how
Switch
many people are onto the second or third Switch?
I mean, not that many, though, to make up from 32 million to 125. You're talking 5 times the amount there.
If you think about the Switch OLED, when that came out, if you've had the Switch from launch and you were playing it a lot, then Switch OLED comes out. It's your mid-console refresh.
Yeah, but you're talking 5 times the amount. Even if someone's bought 2, that's still just another double and double again on top of that.
Yeah, to be honest, when you start putting it in that context, I think you are right that this is because of the sheer number of Switches and probably because of the time since last 2D Mario.
I mean, remember the movie as well came out this year to roaring success. It was the biggest selling movie of the year until Barbie took the mantle. What a world we live in. Yeah. But like I said, new Mario game for the first time in a while. More Switches than ever before. They do kind of have like slight droughts, I would say, on the Switch between big titles. Like we had Zelda earlier on the year, and then now this. I don't think they've had that much this year, Nintendo, in between those two tentpoles, because they don't really get the third-party stuff. They've had like a lot of good games.
They've had stuff, and to be fair to both of us, for most of this year, we weren't even covering Nintendo on the channel, so we weren't digging into it the same level we would PlayStation, Xbox. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the two big titles are basically Mario and Zelda. And to be fair, when Nintendo bring out a new Mario game, which is getting rave reviews, and a new Zelda game, which is getting rave reviews, is a good year for Nintendo. Absolutely.
No Pokemon game this year either, which I'm surprised at because they seem to.
They still haven't fixed the last one.
Well, the last one wasn't good. Too.
I really didn't like it, but
yep, big sales, and again, video games just keep selling more and more. And shout out to Wonder, because I think initially there's a couple of people like, oh, it's another 2D. Is it really any different? And I've heard a lot of the stuff from the reviews that they didn't show in the trailers. The kind of the Wonder Flower, which changes the whole world in an instant, is what makes this game wonderful.
But if you're looking at a 2D Mario going, oh, it's another 2D Mario game, it's like, well, it's not for you then. Either you just go give it a chance, because Nintendo have got a very, very good track record with this stuff. And Nintendo actually quite famously do not bring out new games with their beloved IP unless they have a new gameplay concept. Like that's what they talked about with Tears of the Kingdom. The reason Tears of the Kingdom exists is because they couldn't fit everything they wanted to do in Breath of the Wild. That's the only reason that game exists, because they had so many ideas unfulfilled that they felt would be really fun. So, and it's why that they're not going to turn that into a trilogy, because they've now done what they want to do with that iteration of Hyrule. So the next Zelda game will be quite far off, probably, and a completely different beast entirely. And it's the same with Mario. They always try to come up with some sort of gameplay mechanic that changes things up. Like Odyssey had the cap, which they used it in a lot of different ways, which changed up the format, so it didn't just feel like a clone of Super Mario 64.
Yeah, they are certainly the masters of keeping things fresh.
Yeah, and the last success story is Starfield. Set records for the most Game Pass subscriptions added on a single day. So Starfield has done exactly what Microsoft wanted it to do. Push people into Game Pass.
I mean, that's the point, right?
Yeah, literally, it's the point. Like,
you just want to hope that, Microsoft hope that people stick around for more than a month.
That's it. Starfield's one of the games that get you in. Now, then there's the extended library. There is what should be there to keep people in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good library, to be fair.
You hope people go like, oh, Starfield, yeah, looks great. And then they go, oh, DeadSpace is free for Halloween. Fancy that. And then that's another month. And then they're making then City Skylines drops as well, or something. And you go, you know what, while I'm here, I'll start Halo. And then before you realise it, you're 5 Halo games in, you've had Game Pass for 7 months, and then the next big thing comes out.
Maybe you're just a hardcore Bethesda fan and like, oh, Starfield's a new game from Bethesda, that's great. Oh, Fallout's there. Oh, Skyrim's there. Morrowind's there. Like,
yeah, just keep the game. That's it. It's that curation of library content that keeps you
might
around.
already have it on the disc on your 360, but it's like with Skyrim, it's like, oh, but it's just there. I can just download this game, or I can just play through the cloud. Great.
Yeah,
I'm in.
And I think you and me both, as a gamer, I don't want to admit it, but I'm probably just going to have Game Pass forever now.
Yeah,
I can't see a reason why I would ever just give it up randomly, unless it just shit the bed and then it started to lose games somehow through licensing, which they own, and it didn't get any good day one titles. But Microsoft seemed committed to making that happen time and time again.
I think I've said this on the channel before, but I'd be more willing to drop PlayStation Plus than a Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
Game Pass gives me access to everything I could ever want on my Xbox. PlayStation Plus I barely use, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Right, is there any stories you want to cover before we wrap up? Because there's been some moving and shaking with people leaving companies, restructures of stuff.
Nothing exciting, really. No, I think we'll go just... I mean, I'll throw in the random one. Robert Pattinson's Batman suit appeared in Arkham Knight. Okay. Not really sure why. Arkham Knight
I feel he gets overlooked as the Batman, to be honest.
I mean, he's the most recent one. I think it was a great movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But
me too, but you don't hear him like talked in the same breath as like a Christian Bale sort of thing. It just seems to have come and gone a bit. I really enjoyed that film though, but
it just makes me wonder why Arkham Knight, which is the third in the Arkham trilogy, excluding Origins, which actually Origins just passed its 10th year anniversary this past week. I will point that out as well. Great game. Arkham Knight, the Epic Games Store version of the 2015 title, randomly got Robert Pattinson's Batsuit added from last year's movie as a wearable skin. And it just makes me wonder, like, why is a developer still working on a game that's nearly a decade old to add a skin into a movie that came out a year ago, seemingly for no reason? Like, we've know Gotham Knights has came and went. We know Suicide Squad's next year. Like, we know the collection is coming to Switch this month, I believe, or next month.
One guy on his lunch break has just been playing around and then like
coding the suit in.
Well, just modelling it just for fun, and there's like, oh, so I'm just going to finish it. He's like, he's probably been working it on and off since the movie came out, and then it's like finally done. Like,
publish.
You know when you get like, oh, I've got half an hour before a meeting. I just bring that file up. I just have a bit of a play.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Can't do any. I don't have time to actually start any serious work right now. So I'm just gonna have a play with this little side project.
Yeah,
but yeah. But I think that's all we have time for this week. Oh, this week in gaming. Anything interesting?
Command and Conquer Red Alert 3, 15 years old today, where the series kind of started to fall off a little bit, unfortunately. It kind of similar to what we said last week with things like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Age of Empires. There's a certain kind of age where games just fit that isometric aesthetic perfectly. And then when they get too modern and they start to change things up a bit, it's like you're getting away from what made the game so fun at its core. Red Alert 3 kind of suffers from that, and then Generals just shit the bed. So, yeah, 15 years since Red Alert 3. Fallout 3, also 15 years ago. I
think Fallout 3 for me is the standout. There's some other stuff. I saw like Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Oh, that's a big one. A Game Boy Advance. Oh well, it's a Game Boy Advance version.
The lesser version. Yeah. Motorstorm Pacific Rift came out 15 years ago on PS3. One of the launch PS3 titles. Made things a little bit different. 7 years since Titanfall 2. Damn. And people are clambering for a remake. If only EA didn't shit the bed and release at the same time as two behemoth shooters. And shout out to Sunset Overdrive, Insomniac's exclusive title for the Xbox One, and the DNA, which brought us Spider-Man 2.
Indeed. But yeah, I think that's there's a few modern titles. Bayonetta 3 is apparently really good. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the
Remaster.
The remaster came out a year ago, as of the day of recording. But yeah. But that's all we have time for you this week. This time, actually. Make sure you like the video. Subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe.
I don't know what happened there.
You spookscribe.
Spookscribe to the channel and ring that bell icon so you're kept in the loop of all of our great content here at Helix Plays Games, such as this podcast every single day.
No.
At GamerGuildTV.
Helix Plays Games. That's no. Oh well.
Do all the things. Links, descriptions below. I'm bailing on this outro. Goodbye. My name's Richie.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Bye.